For my ex-wife, I gave up billions just to live a peaceful life with her. But she betrayed our marriage time and again for her dream man. After the divorce, I inherited the company. Those two scoundrels never expected that I would become the CEO. Sorry, you two are fired. Ding. Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. I have a team-building event at the company tonight. Don't wait up for me. On our wedding anniversary, I went to her workplace to pick her up, only to witness her getting in a car with another man right in front of me. I followed them to a hotel and watched as they passionately kissed. I didn't interrupt, but returned to my car. In my passenger seat, there were flowers, cake, and a platinum purse she had been wanting for a long time. I sat quietly in the car, waiting until they checked out and left separately. Honey, why have you smoked so many cigarettes? Only got back now? Ashley Evans greeted me warmly and helped me take off my coat when I got home. She was wearing a tight black lace dress. Her hair was half dry. Clearly she just got home too, with the scent of shampoo still lingering in her hair. Seeing my silence, she ran into the kitchen and fetched me a warm cup of milk. This was a bedtime habit of mine. Next time, don't smoke so much. Ashley handed me the warm milk with a tinge of reproach in her eyes. To my previous self, I would have held her and thanked her, but now I felt a suffocating feeling in my chest, as if I couldn't breathe. I dragged my weary body into the bathroom to wash up. On top of the washing machine in the bathroom was the ultra-short black skirt Ashley wore today. The clothes retained remnants of that man, and the wrinkles revealed stitched threads, indicating the fierce encounter they'd had today. I was deep into my examination when Ashley barged in, quickly snatched the clothes from my grasp, and then hurriedly explained. Someone spat on it today, and I haven't had time to wash it yet. She dashed away, skirting around me. When I finished washing up and returned to bed, she was lying there, staring at the ceiling with a silly smile. Only when I entered the room did her smile dissipate. Do you remember what day it is today? There was anticipation in her eyes as she propped herself up to ask me. I don't know. I could only give her a non-committal reply. She seemed a little disappointed and lay back down, turning her back on me. She took out her phone and started typing rapidly with her nails, emitting soft chuckles. On my bedside table were pictures of us from various trips we had taken. They hailed us as a couple made in heaven. Ashley put down her phone, unexpectedly straddled me, and teasingly stared at me. Today's a special day. Shall we have a go? Her hands began to wander on my body. All I could feel was discomfort, as if ants were nibbling where she touched. Suddenly, Ashley's phone lit up, flashing a name. Quickly, she rolled over, snatched the phone, and ran into the walk-in closet to receive the call. In the dead of night, it was not hard to guess who could stop Ashley at this point. She hid inside and talked for nearly an hour, without any intention of stopping. Her voice was cheerful, her tone playful, sometimes coquettishly playful, sometimes playfully scolding. She sounded just like a young girl in love. I went out to the balcony and continued smoking. The first time I met Ashley was the first day I infiltrated my father's company and started from the ground up. I kept my identity hidden, just to learn some real skills. Ashley was the receptionist at the company. She was the one who received me. At that time, I was just a newbie in her eyes, a poor lad, with nothing but naivety. After I realized I liked her, I helped her several times in secret. It was I who pushed Ashley step by step to the position of the general manager's assistant behind the scenes. With her meteoric rise, there was no shortage of jealous voices within the company. Under my influence, no one dared to comment. I pursued obsessively, and finally won the heart of my goddess. But I was also aware my parents would never accept Ashley. So, behind my parents' back, I left everything in my home just to be with Ashley. I thought that as long as there was love, I could earn all the material wealth myself. We would gradually have a big house and a car. Not until that day when our head office appointed a new manager. This manager happened to be Ashley's first love and ex-boyfriend, William. William was tall, handsome, and wealthy. There wasn't a single girl in the company who didn't like him. Moreover, He was in the company's top management at such a young age, and a slew of girls were chasing after him. From that day on, I noticed that the usually plain Ashley changed her dressing style. Her skirts got shorter, and she paired them with low-cut tops and, no matter how you looked, high heels. It didn't seem like an appropriate work uniform. Every day before leaving the house, Ashley would look in the mirror for a long time, apply delicate makeup, and then head out. One day, I teased her, "Your underwear is showing." However, she replied without thinking, "That's exactly the effect I wanted." I hurriedly added when I finally reacted, "Dressing like this is refreshing." I hadn't considered the implications of that sentence back then. Every time I saw Ashley becoming more mature and beautiful, I felt sweetly contented inside. I only wanted to be with her and live a good life. It wasn't until today, our anniversary, when I wanted to prepare a surprise for her, imitating William, that I realized what a sturdy green hat I've been wearing. Depressed, I finished 3 packs of cigarettes in a day, causing my throat to be dry and constantly coughing. Upon returning to the bedroom, Ashley was already lying down after finishing her phone call. As soon as I sat on the bed, she wrapped herself around me, even more passionately than before. "Honey, I have a favor to ask." I involuntarily respond to her. "Tomorrow, I have something to do at home. Can you go out for the whole day?" I tactfully asked, although I knew the answer. "But tomorrow is the weekend. Where should I go?" Ashley twirled her finger. "My friend and our company's director thought about coming over to see our place." I turned my head to look at her. "What? You want to keep our relationship a secret?" Noticing her trying to make up an excuse, "I've heard enough lies," and directly replied, "Got it." She excitedly hugged me and nibbled a few times. I quickly wiped off the places she kissed. Seeing my disgust, she was somewhat taken aback. "What's gotten into you?" I twisted my body and laid down. "I'm tired." She pulled my arm and used it as a pillow to sleep. My mind was filled with their passionate kiss in the car. The next morning, I was kicked out by Ashley before I even had time to eat breakfast. With frustration in my heart, I went to the coffee shop downstairs to drink coffee, 1 cup after another. By afternoon, I thought people should have gone by now, so I decided to go back home. The cafe owner stopped me in my tracks. "Mr. David, your coffee is packed. Please take it with you." Seeing my stunned face, he confirmed the phone number and name on it. Left with no choice, I picked up the coffee, presumably ordered by Ashley. By the time I got home, I realized I didn't have my keys and had to ring the doorbell. The person who answered the door was Ashley, seemingly unwilling to let me in. She looked bashful, utterly helpless. Someone inside the house asked her, "Ashley, who is it?" Ashley replied in front of my face, "The coffee delivery guy." At that moment, my heart sank. She snatched the coffee from my hand, looking flustered. However, the man from inside the house walked out confidently. On seeing me, he paused for a moment before turning to plant a light kiss on Ashley. "It's hot outside. Thanks for the delivery." Ashley gently pushed the man away and slammed the door shut. My hand was still on the door edge. Her action almost crushed my fingers. Touching my whitened fingers, I returned to the coffee shop and sat there until late at night. Only then did Ashley call me to go home. "Honey, I've prepared some food for you. Come and eat." Looking at the leftovers, I chuckled inwardly, feeling even more nauseous. Seeing that I didn't pick up my chopsticks, Ashley tentatively explained, "About what happened during the day." "I didn't." I stopped her stuttering explanation. "I understand, you had no other choice." She nodded fervently. I casually asked her, "Is he our manager?" She nodded slightly, stretching her neck to observe my expression. "Do you mind it?" "We're just colleagues. He's my boss. You misunderstood." I laughed coldly in my heart without showing any emotion on my face. Had I not seen the two of them that day, I might actually have believed her. Returning to the bedroom, all our family photos had been put away, my clothes and belongings all crammed into the cabinet. There was not a trace in the house to indicate that I had ever lived there. A faint odor lingered in the room, refusing to dissipate even when the windows were wide open. The bedsheet was crumpled, smeared with some semi-dried liquid. I pulled open the drawer and sure enough, a condom was missing. By this point, my heart had completely died, devoid of any glimmer of hope. Married for 5 years, I had never once spoken harshly to Ashley. I handed over all my money to her and took care of all the housework. I dared not let her meet my parents due to fear that she couldn't bear any grievance. When she was competing to be the chief secretary, I even rallied a group of people to vote for her. I love children, but Ashley had always been reluctant to have any. I always gave in to her, waiting for her to be willing, in hopes of being able to take care of her and please her into giving me a little daughter like her. It would then be easier for my parents to accept her. While she was bathing, I went to the balcony for another smoke, reminiscing their ambiguous behavior and her ordering me to fetch coffee. I slapped myself hard, feeling terribly pathetic for not confronting her. After taking a shower, Ashley changed into a provocative set of clothes. Before, whenever I bought her something hoping to get a glimpse of it on her, she would always refuse in the name of being conservative. But today, she surprisingly put it on without hesitation. She flirted with great allure, and in a daze, I started to believe the events of the past few days were all in my imagination. Why are you looking at me like that? It's a bit embarrassing. We're old married folks after all. Ashley's words brought me back to reality. She tried her hardest to strike what she believed to be her most seductive pose. If it were the old times, I would have been extremely excited. But today, the picture of the two softly kissing lingered in my mind, refusing to fade away. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't forget it. Gently, she nudged me and hooked my chin with her fingertip. Aren't you going to take a shower? What are you waiting for? I suppressed my memories, trying to give myself one last chance. What if I was overthinking? Once I finished my shower, I decided that I needed to express my suspicions honestly. Just when I was ready for all this, Ashley threw a bucket of cold water on me again. Honey, I need to go on a business trip tomorrow. My rekindled heart was extinguished once again. I asked with a stony face, how many days will you be gone? She feigned calm and extended her fingers with a smile. Just a week will suffice. I then lit a cigarette and took a puff. Who are you going with? Ashley pretended to look elsewhere, avoiding eye contact with me. Just a colleague, someone you don't know. I was perfectly aware of who she was going out with, William. That night, I didn't touch her. Early next morning, I offered to pack her luggage for her. However, she refused. Previously, she would always joyfully accept my offer, considering it a gesture of my fondness for her. Seeing her guarding her suitcase protectively, I cast a sidelong glance at her. A few miniskirts that were merely as wide as bands, a stack of black tights, and a box of condoms. The reason for her not letting me touch her suitcase became apparent. She had things she wanted to hide. Ashley spent 2 hours applying makeup before stepping out, a silly grin never leaving her face, her head swaying side to side. I've never seen her this excited, as if she's setting off on a honeymoon. After a long wait, the horn of a car downstairs honked, startling her into action. She quickly grabbed her luggage, turning down my offer to accompany her downstairs. In her hurried state, she instructed me before leaving. Darling, wait for me at home obediently, and I'll agree to whatever you want when I return. She gave me a peck, placing her lips close to mine. I was covered in goosebumps. Who would have expected? The next morning I received a call from home. My secretary's voice was frenzied. The chairman is on the brink. I was in a panic, but I still dialed Ashley's number. At bare minimum, let my dad see her one last time to give him peace. After a long while, the phone on the other side was finally picked up. It was a man who answered, his voice deep and resonant. Fighting back the sorrow and rage, I shouted, "Get Ashley on the phone." The person on the other end seemed leisurely, taking forever to respond. "You must be Ashley's husband. I'm William. Ashley can't answer the phone right now. She's taking a bath." The humming music stopped on the other end, replaced with the sound of dripping water getting closer. A gentle voice inquired, "Honey, whose call is it?" "Your husband's." Upon leaving the hospital, I was disheartened. My phone was filled with unanswered calls and a couple of WhatsApp messages, all from one person. "Honey, did you call? I have been busy dealing with the work with my boss." My phone was not around, and a colleague picked up the call for me. "Do you have anything urgent to discuss? Can we talk about it in a few days? I'm almost done. Be good." Ashley Evans didn't rush back. Days later, after my father's funeral, I received his will. Apart from the property ownership like the house and stuff, he had an additional condition. Get divorced with Ashley and marry his friend's daughter. As long as I agreed, all properties would be mine. If not, I wouldn't get a penny. Reflecting upon the past 5 years, I did not sign immediately. I held on to the last bit of hope for Ashley. I wanted to give her a chance for the sake of the mutual support of our 5-year relationship. That day, Ashley returned. She seemed lighthearted. Her every move was endowed with glory, like a proud peacock. Seeing me smoking downstairs, she put away her smile and held my arm. "Honey, how did you know I would come back and wait for me here?" I glanced at William, who had just parked his car. A BMW, a black suit. Any woman would want a second look. No wonder Ashley had a taste for them. Seeing William approaching, Ashley's expression stiffened. "Hello, you must be David, right? I'm the boss of your company, William." Being polite, I also extended my hand, intending to shake hands with her, but midway, he changed his course, disdainfully dusting off non-existent dust on his suit. Ashley awkwardly watched our interaction. "I've been meaning to introduce you too, just never found the right opportunity," I said hastily. Struggling to control my anger, I grabbed Ashley's hand, intending to take her home. But William wasn't ready to let us leave so easily. "Ashley, have you forgotten about the meeting we have today?" Ashley stood between us, hesitating for a long time. She seemed indecisive, taking a while to make up her mind. She walked over to William's side, looking at me with a face full of guilt. "Sorry, honey. There's a meeting at the company I haven't finished." She hooked her arm around William's and quickly got into the car without even taking her luggage. As I watched the car drive away, I understood. Ashley had chosen William over me. In her heart, I was less important than William. I was the one who carried the luggage up the stairs. The suitcase that wouldn't even let me touch when I left is now here right before my eyes. Several sets of professional underwear were rolled up together inside. Only the box of condoms was left. All the clothes were in a torn state, extremely unbearable. I don't know what kind of mindset I had when I helped her tidy up the luggage. I even washed and dried all of her clothes. After doing all this, I took out the will and decisively signed my name on it. This also meant that my 5-year marriage with Ashley was over. As soon as the name was signed, I sent out a message, and Ashley called immediately. "Honey, do me a favor. An issue has occurred with William's business. I heard it's your department's client. Make an effort to persuade them. I remember you have a good relationship with them. If not, William will be transferred." It's William again. I'm sick of hearing this name. I didn't refuse outright, but proposed a condition. "Come home with me, and then I'll help you resolve it." My father had worked hard his whole life, and he died without seeing me settle down and establish a family. I want him, at the very least, to meet his daughter-in-law. If Ashley is willing, I can even introduce her to my experience. The abrupt end of our 5 years of marriage is a bit of a pity. Seeing her agree, I made a call to the client she mentioned. With just a few words, I managed to salvage the project, and the man was an old friend of my dad. 5 minutes later, Ashley called me. "There's no need, darling. William has made use of his own connections, and the project with the client is back on," she said. I sneered internally. "What about coming back home?" I asked. She hummed and hawed for quite a while before answering in an apologetic tone. "Darling, can we wait a bit longer? The company is very busy recently. I have to stay here for a few days. I probably can't go back," she explained. What else could I say? I could only express my impatience with a single response. Ashley could tell from my tone that I wasn't happy, and she softly tried to placate me. "Darling, don't be angry. Wait for me to finish up with work. I promise I will spend more time with you." I didn't want to hear anymore, so I hung up the phone directly. As for her constant empty promises, I had already become numb to it. I didn't even have the slightest expectation anymore. At night, I was alone, packing up my things, planning to head back home when Ashley actually returned. She was wearing a halter dress with an extremely wide neckline, revealing a lot of her chest. She, who had never given birth, had a curvaceous figure, just like the first time I met her. In that instant, I seemed to see her working as a receptionist at the company. Ashley came up and hugged me tightly, her hands seemingly lost on me. There was a faint smell of alcohol on her. "Honey, why haven't you gone to bed so late?" I gently pushed her hand away. She looked at me somewhat perplexed. If it had been before, when she was upset, I would have dropped what I was doing to wholeheartedly soothe her. But now I did not even give her a glance. "Honey, you've changed lately, you have no interest in me." I really wanted to question her. Am I the one who's changed? But without the nature to question, I just replied lightly. "I'm sorting things out. Don't have time for you." These days, I have directly approached the group to acquire the company's surveillance authority without hiding my identity. Although there are no surveillance cameras in the general manager's office. But the two of them, unable to bear solitude, always seized upon every opportunity to show affection in the company. Her interactions with William were clearly recorded on video. My choice to remain silent is not because I don't care, but because it's not yet time to reveal everything. Ashley moved her body close to me, pressing tightly against me. I could clearly feel her heartbeat, so calm that it couldn't be calmer. Her interactions with me were merely to complete a routine task, devoid of any emotion. Not until she was about to change her clothes and reached out for them did she suddenly realize that various professional underwear she had packed for her trip was conspicuously hanging in the closet. At that moment, she panicked, unable to remember when she had put the clothes into the closet. She turned around to look at my expression. Her face was cold, and she quickly turned around to block my view, trying to test my reaction. "Husband, did you help me put away my luggage when I was on a business trip?" Her tone was a bit hopeful, as she wished for a negative answer. Perhaps she had forgotten to put things away herself. But my answer to her was unequivocal. "Yes, I washed those clothes for you specially, but I threw away the ones that were torn." Ashley's face changed considerably. "Husband, let me explain. Those clothes belonged to a colleague. Her luggage was not big enough, so she put them in my suitcase." Before I could ask again, her phone lit up and we both glanced at it simultaneously. We looked at each other, and she did not answer. "Why aren't you answering? Aren't you afraid that something might be wrong?" After hesitating for a moment, Ashley decided to answer the call. Fearing I would overhear the conversation, she retreated to the cloakroom, responding in a low voice. I continued to pack my luggage, not caring about their conversation. When I had nearly finished packing, Ashley came out, hesitating, and not knowing how to speak out. "Husband, it was a call from William. His mother is sick." She was waiting for my reaction. I didn't even raise my head. "So?" She started stammering. "You're aware of how busy he is at work. My aunt is sick and there's nobody to take care of her. As a secretary, I must step in and help out. It's part of my job responsibilities." Ashley stared at me unblinkingly, afraid that I might object. She can't figure out that I simply couldn't care less about her whereabouts. I can't stand anyone trying to test me like this, so I straightforwardly told her, "Just go. Take more clothes and don't bother coming back." She was stunned, unsure of how to interpret my attitude. In the past, even if I didn't accompany her out the door at midnight, I would still remind her to be safe. But now I couldn't wait for her to leave. That phrase, "don't bother coming back," sounded strange to her. Ashley, naturally assuming that I was speaking sarcastically, gently shook my hand. "Honey, are you upset? Don't be. It's all part of my job. I understand. It's the working world. It's all normal." No matter how far you take it, I can't doubt you. Seeing my nonchalant attitude, she was somewhat skeptical but finally made up her mind and scurried off. The car downstairs had been waiting for a long time. As soon as Ashley got in, the two of them embraced and kissed passionately, like they hadn't seen each other for ages. The lamplight was fostering an intimacy between the two figures below. From my balcony, I smoked several cigarettes, using their interaction as my backdrop. Not until they left did I go back to sleep. When I return, everything can be considered settled. I come back to my family home in Colorado, where my parents resided and where my father was laid to rest. I knelt in front of his grave, silently murmuring for a long while. A strong sense of guilt overwhelmed me. I, his son, was a disappointment, so far from his hopes and expectations. After settling the matters, I roamed the cities where I had once traveled with Ashley. I wanted to recall those romantic moments from the past. Gradually, during my journey, I relaxed mentally and physically, becoming noticeably happier. "Excuse me, could you help me take a picture?" A sweet-looking girl stood in front of me. I nodded and agreed to her request. I took a picture of her posing with her meal. She was very satisfied, so we talked a bit more. My encounter with Hazel was so casual. Maybe it was my father's arrangement that we were destined to be together. When I went home and agreed to meet my father's friend's child, I met Hazel, who took coffee shots at the cafe. "Are you Uncle James's son?" I responded with an understanding smile. "Nice to meet you, I am indeed." We had a long conversation and eventually she brought up my wife. That half-month went by without a word. No idea where my wife was. I could happily chat about other things. Whenever she was mentioned, I seemed deflated all over. Hazel sensed that I didn't want to elaborate and propped her chin, watching me. "I prefer seeing you smile, and I like your candid talks. This unconfident look is not like you. Do you think I'm unhappy?" She shook her head. "You're always happy when you don't bring her up, and that makes me happy too." The topic didn't continue for long. Upon getting to know her better, I found out that Hazel turned out to be a food blogger with 1 million followers. Moreover, she disciplines herself well with just the right physique. She's cheerful, confident, and generous. She has a decent material foundation and a broad vision. She possesses an outlook that girls of Ashley's class could never reach. After bidding farewell to Hazel, I returned home again with a heavy heart. The moment I pushed the door open, there stood William shirtless, his countenance still reflecting a satisfied smile from the afterglow. Ashley, with both bare legs exposed, clearly didn't expect my return. Her face flushed a deep red. "Little David, you're back." He greeted me generously, as if he was the master of the house. "Dear, how come you're home all of a sudden? You didn't even give a heads up." I greeted William calmly, much to his surprise, as he was expecting me to be furious. He found it quite boring. Ashley watched William leave and started looking for me afterwards. He eventually found me in the cloakroom, tidying up. "Husband, what are you doing?" I didn't raise my head and kept cleaning up my belongings. "The divorce agreement is on the desk. Sign it and we'll proceed to the Civil Affairs Bureau to settle the divorce procedures tomorrow." Ashley's face instantly turned pale. "What are you talking about? Who wants to divorce you? What nonsense are you spreading? I'm tired enough." Her tone was erratic, and her chest heaved. I pulled out a heart pill for her. "He knows about your heart condition, doesn't he?" Ashley was slightly taken aback. She shook her head. Seeing she was still stubbornly trying to hold on to me, I pointed at her nightgown. There, a clear evidence from earlier hung onto her gown. She suddenly realized that I had returned unexpectedly, and she had not yet tidied up. "Listen to me. I just got my clothes wet and wanted to change. We did not do anything excessive. This is my phlegm." I was almost nauseated by this explanation. "Do you want me to show you the used condom in the trash can behind you that hasn't dried out yet?" I offered. She held my hand, pleadingly on her face. "Honey, that wasn't mine." Her face turned stern all at once. "I see, that was from the woman you've been seeing, huh? Good job, David." her face twisted in a way I've never seen before. I have no desire to respond to her questions any longer. Whatever you say, we've signed the agreement. To the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Upon seeing my determination, Ashley's expression became utterly monstrous. You can divorce, but the house and car are mine. The house and car were bought before our marriage. Even if you check the records, there isn't a single bank transfer from you. You have the nerve to lay claim to the house and car. She looked at me with laughter in her eyes. You don't have evidence of my infidelity. These are all marital assets. I refused to walk away with nothing. I scanned her critically with my eyes. You sure you want to see my evidence? She felt unsettled under my intense gaze. But she still gritted her teeth and refused to allow me to take away the car, house, or anything of value. Bring out your evidence for me to see. Be careful. I might sue you for defamation. My last bit of affection for Ashley Evans has been completely worn down by her actions. I had originally hoped that we could part on good terms, and even lend each other a helping hand in the future. However, it seems all of this was just my wishful thinking. That day, in the parking lot beneath our company building, in the hotel, there was evidence everywhere. I had already obtained my share from the company. I had thought that we could at least greet each other when we meet in the future, but now it seems she wants to tear apart our wonderful 5 years together. I sent her the video from my phone. She was stupefied. Even the people in the video blushed and looked embarrassed. If this goes in front of a judge, she's bound to be humiliated. Ashley was scared and grabbed my hand. David, considering our years together as husband and wife, please forgive me just this once. William and I were just taking what we needed from each other. I laughed. I never thought she could belittle me like this. Ashley, we were husband and wife, and I have been fair to you. Let's sign the agreement and part on good terms. However, Ashley refused to sign the contract and instead called William. Of course, I can sign the agreement, but the car and the house must be left behind. He spoke with the tone of a superior, commanding me from above, making me extremely uncomfortable. I didn't want to argue. Sign now. The house and car are all yours. Both feared that I might change my mind and hurriedly signed the agreement. Breaking the ties now is better than them knowing more. Seeing my agreement, Ashley proudly took William's hand, forgetting himself. I originally wanted to break up gracefully. Who knew it would end this ugly? Now that you've signed, you can leave. I didn't look back when I left. The wind was a bit strong as I walked out of the residential area. I could only feel the vast world and the freedom of life. Upon hearing about my divorce, Hazel insisted on accompanying me. On the day at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ashley and William were late. William's car stopped in front of me, almost hitting me. Their appearance attracted a crowd of onlookers. William was in a suit, his hair shining brilliantly. Ashley, dressed appropriately, stood before me. Ah, lucky that you let go. I've been wondering how to separate you two. But you gave up yourself first. Ashley looked at William, a satisfied look on his face. The two were inseparable, as if worried about parting from each other. I sighed. This look was the same as when he was looking at me back in the day, but things have changed. I smiled and sent my blessing. May you have a child soon. Hazel returned with a cup of coffee amidst this bustling scene. The smile on Ashley's face could no longer hold itself together. She didn't expect that there'd be someone new by my side so soon. Someone younger, prettier, and with a better figure. Hazel was a blogger worth a lot, dressed no different from a celebrity. She stood there, and there were even passing fans asking for autographs. She brought the coffee to my lips. Take a sip. Are you getting hot? She wiped the sweat off my forehead, took away the empty coffee cup from me once I finished drinking, and held it in her hand. So, what are we waiting for? Let's finish off quickly. We've got other things to deal with. Ashley looked at William's stupefied expression and gnashed his teeth. Going through the divorce did not take long. I felt relieved. I finally broke free. Meanwhile, Ashley and William were busy preparing for their wedding. They put on their diamond rings right in front of me. They made a grand proposal in front of everyone in the Civil Affairs Bureau. Ashley was very moved. Hazel and I got into the car and planned to leave. William stopped my car and provoked. I'm about to be transferred to the headquarters. Ashley will be your new boss. You're just unlucky, spending the rest of your life working for others. I didn't feel like responding. Where he ends up, I'll decide. A few days later, I went to the office. I couldn't help but feel a bit emotional. The office felt different now that my status in the company had changed. Before, I was an employee, but now I'm in charge of the company's operations. Ashley and William, aware of the headquarters inspection, waited early at the company's entrance, ready to flatter. Before getting out of the car, seeing the two people in front of me, I couldn't help but feel the whims of fate. William personally opened the car door for me. As he got out, he bowed deeply. The smile on his face faltered as he lifted his head to look at me. They would never have expected that the executive coming to inspect the company would be me. I walked in front and the two followed behind. Their expressions were more interesting than the next. Before they could speak, I plainly stated my intentions. The company is not performing well and needs optimization. There will be someone to take over your work duties. Upon hearing what I said, Ashley immediately sat on the ground. William was also unable to react. David, not Boss David, you can't just dismiss me with a single sentence, he protested. I looked at him. My own company. Isn't it up to me who I want to hire? He lowered his head. Then where am I supposed to go? I thought it was the headquarters. I looked puzzled. Who said that? All right, the headquarters is missing a gatekeeper. Do you want to be one? William looked utterly dejected. The news he has been stopped all benefits me. Tormenting him is only one word for me. Ashley pulled his hand to comfort him. It's all right, we still have a house at least. William couldn't lift his head. The house. The house has been mortgaged by me. Hearing this was like a bolt from the blue for Ashley. If we no longer have the house, what about the money in the card? William didn't dare to look at her. I answered for him. Your husband is a ruthless man, having incurred a massive debt from his investments, and he has undervalued all the assets to the company. Ashley was on the verge of collapse. I added another sentence. Furthermore, his embezzlement is already a settled matter. You should prepare to face the consequences. Upon hearing this, William knelt on the ground. CO David, please save me. I will work as your gatekeeper. I will work like an ox and a horse. Looking at the man that once stood tall and proud in front of me, all I could feel was intense revulsion. Ashley, don't you want to ask why he was with you? Ashley lifted her head, her eyes wet with tears. I was just attracted to her wealth, her savings and house. William confessed on his own. Ashley seemed to have lost her soul. She is foolish enough to be led astray with slight flatteries, easier to manipulate than others. Ashley kept staring at him, unwilling to give up hope. And what about this ring? William gave up hope. What ring? You're not worthy. Ashley could no longer hold on. She fainted right away. When she woke up, William had already been arrested, and she's found out that she was pregnant. She was on the verge of committing suicide due to extreme despair. And I soon rid myself of their shadow and bounced back. Hazel was by my side to console me, all the while teasing me about becoming a travel blogger. Back at the company, my secretary told me that Ashley had been waiting for me for a few days. I agreed to meet her. This time she regretted, and she was begging me. Honey, I was blind, possessed. Please forgive me this one time. Let's live our life well from now on. I pried her fingers off, but I dared not to touch her. After all, she was pregnant. If I had known what would happen, I wouldn't have started this. My blessing of May you have a noble child soon has come true. With all her strength, she blocked me, pushing her belly towards me. This is your child, David. Speechless, I broke into laughter. Ashley, your belly is big now. I haven't touched you for months, right? She started crying bitterly. Have some pity on me. My child is also your child. She wiped away her tears. If you don't want my child, I won't insist. Just give out some money and save William. I won't bother you anymore. Choked with laughter, I retorted. All right, I'll give you another house as well. How does that sound for supporting you for life? A satisfied expression showed on her face. In the end, she was dragged out by security. Half a year into my marriage with Hazel, she also became pregnant. I gave her complete freedom to do all the things she liked. All the difficulties and the child's burdens, I shouldered them all. 5 years later, I bumped into her on the street. At that time, she was filthy and coarse-looking. Her once beautiful hair and nails were wilted and unattractive. In that fleeting moment, I thought I had run into a beggar. If not for her voice, I would not have recognized Ashley. I didn't say a word, simply ordered some breakfast and left. David! She suddenly raised her head and ran towards me. Her cries of anguish echoed along the street. I was wrong. Give me another chance to be your woman. She knelt on the street. Out of nowhere, a car sped towards her. No one knew who she was. Everyone was busy taking photos of the accident. Years later, I heard that Ashley's child was born with deformities and passed away shortly after birth. I visited her grave with flowers in hand. Lonely and overgrown with weeds, I placed the flower she once loved in front of her tombstone. Look, what would have been your fate without what once was?